Hey everyone, this is Kristin from KristinCoaching.com, and thank you all for joining me for my Facebook Live video today. It is Friday, day before the weekend has started, so I hope all of you have a really wonderful and fabulous weekend ahead. I hope you have some fun plans for yourself. I think self-care is really, really important, so you have to make sure on your time off, if you do have days off on the weekend, to enjoy those and do things that are fun for you and things that you're gonna really enjoy and make you happy. So I decided to do these Facebook Live videos because I have been asked really wonderful questions from you guys via email. And I try to get back to you as soon as I can on these questions and give you advice and tips and all those things. But obviously I'm one person and I can't get back to every single one of you. So the ones I can't get back to, I like to save for these Facebook Live forums so I can answer them in front of you guys in one big setting. And I really think that a lot of questions that people have, other couples and other relationships will have as well. So this is a way that we can get it all out there in the open, and I can answer questions and hopefully be helpful to as many people as possible, including yourselves. So I actually decided to save a lot of questions this week that is related to communication in a relationship. I was able to see there were a lot of themes that I was able to kind of gather in and consolidate into one major theme. And a lot of questions that you guys asked really had to do with healthy communication in your relationship. So I have some questions saved and we're gonna be answering those for you today. So I'm really excited. And for those of you who don't know, not only am I a relationship coach and a licensed therapist, I have been in my relationship with my significant other for over 16 years. And towards the beginning of our relationship, my relationship was definitely not the healthiest. I don't know, by the way, if you can hear any banging, but if you do, it's because I live in an apartment and I have neighbors moving downstairs. So I apologize if you can hear banging. So we're just gonna try to move on and push through. It's a little distracting for me because I can hear it louder. So anyways, I've been in my relationship with my significant other for 16 plus years. And in the beginning of my relationship, it really always wasn't the healthiest relationship. We struggled with a lot of things in the beginning. We struggled with, fighting, and we had a lot of communication issues. We even had a lot of infidelity in the beginning of our relationship. And it was unhealthy at times, and it was hard. And I realized that relationships are really, really difficult to get through and to work through and to figure out a way that you and your significant other can come together and be that solid, strong team. And I have learned so many things over the years that have helped me. And so I want to help you guys. I think it's really important that we all deserve to have healthy, happy relationships, long-lasting. And so I'm hoping that I can instill some of my wisdom that I have learned over the years, not only in my professional setting, but in my personal life as well. And I can bring that to you today. So we're just gonna dive into it and answer some questions that you guys have been asking me this week. And we're just gonna go for it. And if you have any questions along the road, feel free to type it in, and I'll be happy to answer as I'm doing the live feed with you today, okay? So let's get started. So the first question I got from somebody is, how can I make my boyfriend talk more to me? And I think that's actually a very difficult and such a good question to ask, because we cannot make people talk to us who don't want to be spoken to. But I do have to say that I think it's important to be able to figure out how to relate to your partner. What is your partner, what gets their engine revving? What kind of topics kind of get them going? What do they like to talk about? I think if you're feeling that your partner isn't communicating as well, to figure out a way to really understand him more, figure out a way what he likes, what he doesn't like, and start a conversation like that. I think that all of us, we get really excited when somebody brings up a topic that really interests us, and something that we're interested in. So if you can figure out what kind of hobbies he likes, things he likes to do, I would start a conversation with that and get him engaged. And if you are talking about, wanting to talk about more deeper issues, maybe more issues that have to do with your relationship and things like that, I think the best way to get your significant other to open up more is to be able to model healthy communication skills. So I think For example, one thing that I love to do is to say I statements. I'm a huge feeling person. I definitely speak with my emotions and my heart. So if I'm trying to have a deep conversation, I'll usually start the conversation by saying, honey, I'm just feeling really, really sad lately. I don't really know what's going on. I've been really struggling with this. This has been on my mind. So I open with, communicating to him and modeling appropriate, healthy communication by saying my feelings and saying my I statements. So I'll say what I have to say, and then I'll pause, and then I give my partner a chance to respond to me. If I'm noticing that my other half isn't really talking back after I have said all the things that I've had to say, I'll usually prompt him with so what do you think about that? Or how do you feel about that? I think asking open-ended questions to get a response from your significant other is really important. You want to ask questions that aren't too specific, but something that's open. Something like, so tell me your thoughts about that. Tell me what you think. And that just gives a space. It's non-judgmental. It gives a space for your other half to talk to you and communicate in the way that they feel comfortable communicating in. And I think it's also important to remember that everybody has different communication skills. I pride myself on being very emotional and being able to tap into my emotions. And there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily start with that. They're not usually saying, I feel sad or I feel angry. They'll communicate in other ways. So to really understand your partner and understand the way he does communicate to you, I think is really healthy. And to model the way that you want communication to happen as well. I remember in the beginning of my relationship, even before I was a therapist and as I was going through grad school, I was learning a lot of ways to say sentences and communicate my emotions. And I noticed that my other half picked up on those as well. So now when he starts a conversation, he'll use a lot of feeling statements. He's totally in tune with his emotions, and he'll be like, yeah, I just felt really frustrated, blah, blah, blah. And I've noticed that he's able to do that way better and way more than he ever has. And I really think that has to do with the modeling that I have shown him and I've been able to use in our relationship. We've kind of been able to mesh together and communicate in a way that works for us. So it's been really helpful. So the second question we have is, how can I get my point across without yelling, cursing, or being sarcastic? I want to tell you that this is such a huge question. And this is such a good question because so many couples struggle with this. I cannot tell you how many couples I've worked with in my professional setting and how many couples I know in my personal life that yell at each other, they curse, or they'll say like rude comments to one another. And all I have to say is it's not a healthy thing to do. We're not perfect. Have I ever cussed? I'm sure I have. It's definitely not my go-to thing, but I'm sure I have cussed in an argument or a conversation. I've probably been a little bit sarcastic as well, maybe rolling my eyes or just doing something that I know is not necessarily the healthiest communication aspect to do. And I do this because I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated. I'm feeling like my other half is not getting me and I'm not getting him. And I think when you're frustrated, you resort to those types of behaviors, whether it's yelling, cursing, degrading each other, belittling one another. And it doesn't get you to the goal that you want to have, which is resolving the issue in the first place. You guys have arguments because you disagree on something. But a lot of couples don't think about, okay, so we're disagreeing, but what am I trying to get at? What do I want to get from this argument? And really all couples want to get to is a resolution. They want to get to a place that they can understand one another and figure out how to come to a place where they are happy and both people are happy in the situation. You're not going to always agree, but you have to come to a resolution. So I think in order to stop yelling or cursing or belittling or insulting each other, you have to remember your end goal, that you want a resolution. You need to make sure that your frustrations are not coming to the forefront. You're not letting it out in those types of behaviors. I think it's absolutely okay to be frustrated, and you can communicate that. I'm feeling really frustrated right now in this conversation, and I'm feeling like it's not going anywhere. that is a lot more effective than say, you're just being an ass right now. You're being a fucking asshole. And I hate that. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that internally. We get frustrated with our partners. We think they're being an ass. I mean, that's really common, but we don't always say that. Saying that is not the healthiest thing to do. So we want to make sure that we communicate the frustration piece without being insulting or degrading or belittling. So really at the end of the day, you just have to be really aware with how you're communicating in your relationship. You want to be aware of your behaviors and your thoughts and your comments and your actions and just things that you do. You have to be very aware. If you don't want to yell, if you don't want to cuss, if you don't want to insult, then you don't have to. Nobody is holding any gun to your head to be able to do that. You have free will, and you're able to change the behaviors that you want to change for yourself. And I think it's really important that in any relationship that we are trying to better ourselves and be better people. We want to make sure that we are the healthiest individuals that we can be for ourselves, so we are healthy in our relationships that we're in with our other halves. So if you don't want to do those behaviors, you got to really work on it and try. And if you notice that you're cursing or you notice that you're yelling, then you need to maybe take a breath. You need to maybe take a time out, maybe walk away for a minute and come back and re-engage in the conversation. You can do it. And it really is possible to have a lot of conversations and arguments with your significant other without it escalating to such an intense situation. Because when it does escalate, it can turn really, really bad. Especially, you can be fighting physically as well before you even know it. I think that's how a lot of domestic violence really happens. It escalates, it explodes, and we want to keep it at a low level from the beginning, to speak calmly, to speak with your emotions, to think logically about it, and think, where do you want to go at the end of this conversation? What do you want to resolve? And really focus on that end piece. And I had another question from you guys, and it has to do with what communication skills can I use to bring me and my significant other closer to one another? And I think that's such a great question that I got this week. So I wanted to talk about that with you today. In the beginning of my relationship, not the beginning, but towards the beginning of our relationship, we actually created a lot of communication rules that we still use today. So in terms of communication skills that you can use to bring yourself closer, I think some rules could be a good way to implement skills. So for example, like my husband and I, we don't go to bed angry. That's something that we have decided not to do early on. We didn't want to go to bed mad at each other, frustrated, angry. We wanted to go to bed, having resolved the issue. So we have been kind of forced to figure out a way to resolve things quickly, or at least find some type of a resolution in the moment that we can go to bed not so upset, and maybe re-engage the next day in the conversation. We also made rules not to yell at each other. We also made rules not to curse at one another. So I would never say in an argument, fuck you, or you're an asshole. I would never say that. I never have, and I never will. That is a rule that we made a long time ago. So he obviously never says that to me either. I think just those two examples right there are communication skills that have brought us closer, because we have not engaged in unhealthy communication that drives us away. That yelling, that cursing, being angry at one another, or even ignoring each other for long periods of time, those are unhealthy, and those bring you guys apart in the long run. So you don't want to do that. You guys want to come together as a couple. You want to utilize communication skills that are going to bring a resolution to the problem. So maybe coming up with some rules for yourself, some things that you and your partner are not going to be doing, or rules that you guys are going to be doing that you think are healthy, and sticking to that. And we're not all perfect. And we're not going to be perfect at this, but we want to get better at it. We want to always improve ourselves and be better. So let's say you come up with rules, and let's say you're in an argument and you break one of them. Okay, but at least know that you are breaking it, and figure out a way to take a time out and re-engage and start fresh. We can't change things unless we want to, and we can't change things unless we're aware of what we're doing that isn't really healthy, so we can change it for the better. So that's really important. And then the last question I got, and it'll be the last question of the day, has to do with someone's partner never communicates with her and he doesn't tell her where he's going or what to do. So she said we're kind of like bumper cars. And I just have to say that, you know, in any relationship, whether you're boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife, you guys are a team. You know, think about it like being on any sports team. You know, you're not isolated on the team. Like, you're working with other people to win the game, right? So you have to talk to each other. You have to communicate. You have to let your teammates know what you're doing and when you're doing it, so everyone's on that same page. And that goes for a relationship as well. You guys have to be on the same page. You guys have to let each other know what you're doing and communicate that. So if you're having another half who isn't letting you know when he's going out or when he's going to be back home, you know, that's an issue. And I'm not saying that, you know, you have to be like the mom and be really micromanaging to him and his life, but being a partnership, you have to let people know, your partner know where you're at, when you're going to be home, what's going on with you. That's just part of a healthy communication, because that's part of showing that you guys are a team together. So I would really encourage your other half to do that and have that teammate mentality. And I think a lot of couples really lack that. You know, I think a lot of people are really kind of self-centered or self-focused, especially maybe in beginning of relationships where they don't necessarily consider their boyfriend or girlfriend as a team. But when you're in any relationship, you absolutely are a team. And there's levels of showing that team dynamic. So being able to communicate and let people know where you are is really important. And if your other half is not doing that, communicate how him not doing that is affecting your relationship. How is it making you feel? How is it affecting your relationship in a negative way? And what do you need from him? I can't tell you how many times that I say to my husband, I need this from you. And I know so many friends that use that in relationships as well. And I think that's such a really, really good thing to say. Instead of saying, you need to do this, you say, I need this from you. Because that's a need that you have. It is your need. And you have to get that fulfilled. So you're communicating that to your other half. And you're hoping that he's going to take that information and honor that and be able to agree or do with what you need him to do for you in the relationship. So that's another really good healthy communication skill. Instead of saying you need to do this, you need to do that, to be like, I need for you to do this. And that really takes the focus off of him or her and takes it on yourself. And you're owning that, and you're owning that need and that feeling. And hopefully if you have a partner that wants to honor that and make you happy, he or she is going to comply with whatever needs that you do have. So that's super helpful. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that these questions were helpful for you, because I hope that you can use them in your relationships with your significant other. Communication is a key component to any healthy, happy relationship. Like I've said before, we have communication, trust, respect, and intimacy. So communication is absolutely one of those key factors that make relationships long-lasting and healthy. So if you're having unhealthy communication, I want you to watch this video over and over and over again and utilize some of these tips and techniques that I've taught you today that you can use every day. And it's all about practicing these tips and making you a better partner so you can be a better individual and a better partner in your relationship. We always have to work on ourselves, and we are never perfect. And I think it's about improving ourselves and making us as good as we can be so we can be the best partner that we can be. I'm going to see you all next week. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you have any questions that you want to email me this week, please do so. I'll get back to you when I can. And if I can't get back to you, I'm going to save it for my next Facebook Live feed. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me, guys. And I want you all to have a wonderful, happy, fun-filled weekend. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.